European winters are a tapestry of moods. One day, gentle sunlight over frost, the next, a biting wind from the north. These sudden shifts remind us of nature's unpredictable power. For centuries, people have watched the skies, wondering what forces drive these changes. The answer lies high above, in the stratosphere, where a silent battle of temperature and pressure unfolds. Here, the polar vortex reigns, a vast engine that usually locks the coldest air at the top of the world. But sometimes this containment fails, and Arctic air spills south, transforming Europe's winter overnight. Understanding this process is key to preparing for what winter might bring. As another winter approaches, scientists are watching for signs of change in the great vortex above. Will the guardian of the north hold strong, or will it falter, unleashing a wave of freezing air? The story begins now, with the vortex itself. The polar vortex isn't a storm, but a vast swirl of cold air high above the North Pole. Picture a spinning top thousands of kilometers wide, made of wind, residing in the stratosphere. It forms as the northern hemisphere tilts away from the sun, creating a fortress of cold, dense air. The polar night jet stream acts as its wall, trapping the coldest air inside the Arctic Circle. When strong, the vortex keeps winters in Europe milder, with west-to-east flows bringing moist, warmer air. But the vortex's strength isn't guaranteed. It can be disturbed, causing the jet stream to wobble and meander. Instead of a tight circle, it becomes wavy, letting warm air push north and cold air plunge south. These waves can send Arctic air deep into Europe, Asia, and North America. The fate of winter depends on the stability of this high-altitude giant. When it falters, the consequences are felt far below. The polar vortex's Achilles heel is sudden stratospheric warming, or SSW. In just days, temperatures in the stratosphere above the Arctic can soar by up to 50 degrees Celsius. This warming is triggered by planetary waves, giant ripples in the atmosphere, often born as air flows over mountains or between land and sea. When these waves reach the stratosphere, they disrupt the vortex, slowing or even reversing its winds. The vortex can split or be displaced, breaking its tight grip on the cold. Imagine stirring a spinning cup of tea in the opposite direction. The vortex unravels. The disruption reorganizes the atmosphere above the Arctic, but the effects don't stay there. Over a week or two, the chaos descends to the surface, changing weather patterns across the northern hemisphere. The fortress of cold is breached and Arctic air is free to spill out. This sets the stage for dramatic winter weather far from the pole. The once stable vortex becomes a source of chaos. When the polar vortex weakens, its cold air escapes, forming wandering lobes that plunge south. Pushed by a wavy jet stream, these lobes can bring the full force of a polar winter to Europe. A mild spell can flip to a bone-chilling easterly wind in just days. This air, straight from the Arctic or Siberia, is dry and frigid, fuel for sharp frosts and heavy snow. The beast from the east isn't a single storm, but a prolonged siege of cold. Infrastructure strains, energy demand soars, and agriculture suffers if the freeze arrives without snow cover. The exact target of the cold depends on the jet stream's path, sometimes the UK, sometimes Scandinavia or southern Europe. Predicting the precise impact is a challenge until the last moment. We know the cold is coming, but not always where it will strike. As December 2025 approaches, meteorologists are closely monitoring the polar vortex. Subtle signs in the stratosphere can hint at a developing weakness. Computer models suggest an increased risk of a stratospheric disturbance early this winter. Active planetary waves, influenced by global patterns like El Niño and Arctic sea ice, could trigger a sudden stratospheric warming. If this happens in December, the vast reservoir of cold air could be unleashed when the sun is weakest. The result? a severe, persistent cold outbreak with little to break its grip. It's not a certainty, but the risk is real. Forecasters are on high alert. The polar vortex could hold firm, or it could falter, changing Europe's winter dramatically. Scientists are watching for the first definitive sign of stratospheric warming. History shows what happens when the polar vortex breaks down. In early 2018, a sudden stratospheric warming split the vortex, and 2 weeks later, the beast from the east swept across Europe. Heavy snow and bitter cold brought disruption from Portugal to Italy, and the UK ground to a halt. The economic cost was huge, and the event revealed our vulnerability to extreme cold. In 2009-10, a persistently weak vortex led to relentless cold and the big freeze in northern Europe. Sometimes, it's not one dramatic event, but a season of repeated cold outbreaks. The legendary winter of 1962-63 in the UK was also linked to a stratospheric disturbance, with rivers and even parts of the sea freezing. These events are more than stories. They're crucial data points for scientists. They help refine models and deepen our understanding of how stratospheric changes cascade to the surface. History teaches us what's possible and why we must be prepared. Each event adds to our knowledge of winter's risks. Modern meteorology can now foresee polar vortex breakdowns. Weather balloons and radio sondes measure temperature, wind, and pressure high above us. Satellites scan the atmosphere, building a 3D picture of the vortex and detecting early signs of stratospheric warming. This data feeds into supercomputers, which run complex models to forecast atmospheric changes. When models consistently predict rapid warming, meteorologists issue advisories to governments and key industries. As confidence grows, public warnings follow, moving from long-range risk to specific forecasts. This tiered approach gives everyone, from planners to households, time to prepare. Early warning transforms a potential disaster into a manageable challenge. Science gives us the lead time we need to act. Advance warning of severe cold lets us prepare our homes and families. Check your heating system and bleed radiators for efficiency. Know where your water stopcock is. Quick action can prevent damage if pipes burst. Simple insulation steps, draft excluders, closing curtains, and loft insulation make a big difference. Lag exposed pipes to prevent freezing. Stock up on non-perishable food, bottled water, and essential medications. Have torches, batteries, warm blankets, and a flask for hot drinks ready. Severe cold is especially dangerous for the elderly and vulnerable. Check on neighbors. Community spirit is vital in tough times. With sensible precautions and care for each other, we can face winter's challenges with confidence. Preparation turns fear into resilience. The polar vortex's dance with winter weather shows how deeply connected our planet's systems are. An event high above the Arctic can touch millions across Europe. The risk of a cold December 2025 isn't cause for alarm, but for attention and respect. Our ability to monitor and predict these events is a triumph of science. This knowledge lets us prepare, governments, energy suppliers, and families alike. Whether this winter brings a deep freeze or a mild spell, nature will follow its own course. Our role is to watch, listen, and be ready. By staying informed, we can appreciate the beauty and power of our climate. As winter approaches, we look north, remember past lessons, and prepare for what may come. With knowledge and preparation, we can meet whatever the season brings.